Hello, everybody. We're going to do a faster show here. It's been a busy little while here because right now the Global Energy Show is on from June 10th to June 12th. So we were there all day yesterday. We're going to go back, I believe, today, this afternoon. There's a couple of interesting discussions going on. There's DLE, so a little direct lithium extraction there. There is CANDU as well. So they've got the nuclear reactor people there. No uranium companies, but it's still a very interesting show for all of energy. And it's very exciting because, not many people know, but we are in the middle of doing an OTC deal for energy right now that is taking up a significant amount of our time. It's very, very interesting. And it's interesting in the concept, too, that whenever you hear people say from other provinces or specifically on the left that say there's no market or there's no case use for us needing more pipelines or needing, I can tell you that is not the case. The hunger and demand, particularly for Canada and their energy, is pretty enormous. It's very high. There is plenty of case use. There's lots of interest. And even yesterday, whenever Peter Mansbridge was speaking with the Honorable Premier Danielle Smith, and saying that, I've spoken to some people, even in the audience, and some people here in Calgary who say, talk of separation is causing, maybe investment into Canada to be a bit challenging. And any talk of that would be upsetting for anyone. You want certainty about things. But, she made a good point, and I've been saying all along, is the issue isn't that Alberta is sticking up for itself and wanting to export LNG and clean energy elsewhere. It's the regulations that come across federally that block investment into Canada. We've gone over this a million times. Canada's been pretty much uninvestable for the last decade. And she touched on that as well, which was great. And she's optimistic like I am. She gets to speak with the Prime Minister. And, it depends on which side you're talking to, whether it's the kind of the carbon emissions, climate narrative, and how well he's positioned there compared to the banker who was the chairman over at Brookfield, who was all for pipelines and oil and gas for them. So if you're okay with it for Brookfield, shouldn't you be okay with it for Canada? He has to come to terms with that, and I think that's the reality of. He understands economics and finance. He knows that as much as people like to spend money on programs to either make work programs to employ people, because Canada is very heavily employed by government, most Canadians, a significant portion, that you have to feed that machine and that beast, never mind social programs and welfare and all that, which obviously the government needs to provide, but we certainly have a lot invested there. You can't run that unless you have revenue coming in, and we have revenue. Energy and natural resources is what Canada is. We have a great brainstem as well, but really at the end of the day, it's our resources, our technology, and the ability to extract those resources that are so keen and so great. And it was excellent to see a lot of the discussions there, and just the overall. When you look at the numbers, energy demand is climbing. Natural gas in particular has such a roadmap. We're trying to get our heads wrapped around all of the LNG deals that are happening. Of course, LNG Canada up in Kitimat, that is already accounted for. And that is going to be up and running very, very shortly. You can't even get into that right now. They do have Cedar, which is going to come online, I believe. I think I'm going to get these backwards. There's two other LNG deals that are coming on. There could be a phase 2 to Kitimat as well, LNG Canada. There's Woodfibre, I believe, and Cedar. The one is 2027, one is more like 2029. And even those, they're selling out already. So they've got contracts already in place, like 20-year contracts that, if someone goes, well, what do you, like, you're already pre-selling all your contracts before the project started. That tells you the demand. And these are 20-year contracts. This isn't just a one-year rollout of a project. So And a large part of that is because of such a breadth and history we have of expertise, of innovation that we have here in Alberta specifically. And we have, the known track record of being able to get things out of the ground. And Alberta itself, it is the engine for Canada. It's 80% of Canada's oil is all from Calgary. Carbon capture and storage. So that's, massive technology investment and advancements there, and methane reduction, water recycling in the oil sands, lots of reclamation rules, and we see that in mining as well, and that's important, whether it's a bond at the end of a deal or mine life, or in this case a well. Those reclamation rules and bonds and procedures and plans are critical, and they're very important to me, because you want to see what you see in lots of parts of southern BC, where there's old mines that you wouldn't even know that you've walked over. You want to be able to go back and clean up, say, waste ponds and what, infills and whatnot, but also just return the land the best you can. And they do that. And, you don't get to see or hear a lot about that in the news for plenty of reasons, and most of it being politics and ideology. But we kind of hearken and remind people that, let me just find you some quick numbers here. We've got a pretty big piece that we're working on in regards to LNG. If you could get, let me just get here. I'm trying to find this. If you could get the world, and when I say world, I really mean if you get China and India particularly to stop using coal, then you would have massive amounts of a win in regards to dropping emissions. If you just got the world, I can't find. Okay, yeah. So if the global South had brought access to affordable Canadian or responsibly sourced LNG, the world could cut 1.5 gigatons of CO2 annually. They could accelerate decarbonization without any economic sacrifice. This is why LNG is a global climate solution, not a climate problem. This is why Alberta is the solution right now, and as well as Saskatchewan, because you've got uranium, you've got a lot of nuclear happening there, and you can see why Ontario and Quebec, they're ramping up as well with all the critical metals and looking at batteries and whatnot to also add to that. And we should be doing all of it. We should be using all of the tools, and we should be encouraging investment in here, because we've got all of these projects, we've got all of these great companies, we've got all this energy. We just need to make the country investable. And I really do feel, as far as anyone on the left, we've got the right person in, because he is a banker. He's a finance guy. He understands numbers. He understands finance. Even if he believes in a different economic theory than someone else, he's well aware of both sides of those arguments, whether you're Keynesian or whether you're a modern monetary theorist. He will understand thoroughly both of those. And regardless, you do have to just, whoever you are and what your theory is, which one you like, you have to understand you need revenue coming in. And I'm very hopeful that he's going to see that. And once again, may not get everything, but there certainly seems to be indications that there's an openness and an acceptance, not only in the mining front, but on the energy front as well, to really, launch Canada to become a major player. And of course, there's lots of First Nations and Indigenous support and active engagement there as well. I mean, Woodbridge is fully backed. There's plenty of First Nations booths there, where First Nations Gas Alliance, where they're involved in deals, and it's not just hey, we're providing infrastructure and schooling and jobs. There's that, of course, but this is active investment. They have funds. They're involved in the direction and the production and decision-making on their land and whatnot. And that's what you need to see. And that's part of the ESG, or that's the S&G side that is important, where people that are stakeholders feel like they're being respected, that you're working with them, and that they're making some money. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. That's the win-win that people should have, is that people feel like they're being respected, they're being heard, and they're making some money. And maybe we're getting to a place where all cooler heads are prevailing, and we can get off the fringes of these crazy things. Now, that's hard to say because there's all sorts of things kicking off down south of crazy. But we're always a little bit more rational here in Canada. And if we can get closer into the center, become a bit more rational, and go, listen, we need to drive this economy forward here before we worry too much more about spending tons of money that we don't have as we go further into debt, that would be a good thing. And really, what's going to drive that is all the extractive stuff. It's going to be mining, and it's going to be LNG, and it's going to be all the energy, because they're not stopping. I mean, the hunger in China and also ramping up in India is enormous. They're not going to stop their plans of lifting themselves out of poverty and energy. Having proper energy, that means getting out of poverty. They're not going to stop their plans regardless of a discussion or, hey, well, yeah, we'll commit to an emission reduction by this point. I mean, it's just talk. I mean, you can see the amount of coal plants that China still kicks out. It's enormous. It's impressive what they can get done. But, and that's not to bash China. I think they've got a very sound plan, long-term focus of being the global energy leader amongst other leaders. And they are not going to get slowed down by anyone for it. And they have a good argument as to why that should be the case. I would never discount that argument. So why should we keep producing oil and gas? And it's not just, well, if it's not us, it's someone else. That's a fact. If it isn't us, it's going to be someone else. People said that about coal. The demand for coal is still exceptionally high. So you say, okay, what some of the strategy has been regarding energy deals, whether it's oil or whether it's coal, has been this notion that, well, if we just don't allow Western companies to do it, then that'll be part of our ESG, where we're saying we'll allow developing nations to do it as part of a kind of an equalization of a strategy, which then you're going, well, wait a second, I thought this was about the environment. That's when you quite quickly realize it's not really about the environment. I mean, it is, but it's not really. There's a lot more at play here and a lot more deal making behind the scenes. And that's it's always been like that. I mean, people get into government for lots of reasons. And sometimes it's just to do more deals. And I don't think that surprises anyone at all. So sometimes you have to look to see who's in power, what deals are likely to go forward, and what's the direction. That was certainly when we took a look at some of the companies that we liked, whether it's like Palantir. You go look at, that's a Peter Thiel company. It's easy to go, well, what are the other deals that Peter Thiel's into? Who's in his circle? This is the same thing we do in mining as well. You go, oh, this is an XYZ deal. What other deals have they done? Who around their team also is working on other deals that they come back to that hub? Who is that project generator that has this project and this project? Say like a J2 syndicate with Goliath and Juggernaut, and they've got the big one plus Surebet and whatnot that are doing very well and getting a lot of attention. That matters. Like when you follow teams of people and what they're doing, you can. That's not a bad place to start to see the ones that are having success, and certainly that's the case on a bigger tech scale. When you see the shift going from the Bezos and the Microsofts and the Apple and Zuckerberg to this new crowd, which is the PayPal mafia, Musk, Palantir, and Ural and Peter Thiel deals. So it's important to see those power plays being made, and it's an interesting thing you could track yourself to see, okay, what direction is a country looking at, and where are we moving forward? And it's no different here in Canada. Like I said, with Brookfield. They have no problem doing oil and gas and doing pipelines as a company, and then they do so worldwide. Then you go, well, arguably, that if anyone had any reasonable critical thinking, then our prime minister would be 100% for pushing through all energy. I mean, he was the chairman of a company that did that. It's not that simple. Not that simple. Whenever you have an ideology that isn't just about the environment, there's a whole other S&G packed into all that environmentalism, and it is that kind of cliche saying it's a green on the outside, red on the inside. Planned economy type of stuff. that we see all too well. We've seen for the last 4 years, and we're seeing a push away from that. And we have to find that fine line, just like in life with extreme beliefs or ideologies. If you can get away from the ends and the fringes of both sides of those and kind of hover more towards the middle, life tends to be a little bit easier. More people tend to be a bit happier. People are able to talk a bit more. It's not quite as chaotic. So I think we're hopefully going to see that here, and a lot of LNG plays at hand. That, like I said, that's LNG Canada up in Kitimat. That is very close to being operational. There's no fully operational terminals just yet. But one is very close to Tilbury, LNG Phase 1 at Fortis, BC, Delta, BC. It's a smaller scale, but it's got limited export by truck and marine fueling. Of course, the big one, the big in the news is LNG Canada, which is Shell, Petronas, PetroChina, Kogas. That's Kitimat, BC. Phase 1, they're 90-something complete. They're expecting to be complete anytime soon, mid to late 2025. It's very close. I think it's a $40 billion project. Woodfibre LNG, that's Pacific Energy and Enbridge, that's Squamish, BC. Early construction, major site work began in 2023. First gas 2027. So that's your 2027 deal. Future possible expansion there for LNG at Phase 2. They're looking at that, considering it. Of course, a big challenge there is power grid capacity for full electrification. There's a Phase 2 at Tilbury as well, up for discussion. Environmental review is underway. Hopefully a decision 2026. We also have KSI, the LNG. That's the Nisga'a Nation, Rockies LNG, Western LNG, the BC North Coast. That's like 12 million tons of natural gas. That's pretty good. It's a floating terminal, fully electrified, net zero goal. Pretty wild. Very cool. Once again, that's the Nisga'a Nation. That's great. That's really cool. So, I mean, they're involved in Kitimat as well, of course, but Cedar LNG is another one. It's the Haisla Nation and Pembina Pipeline up in Kitimat. We've got ones in Nova Scotia as well. There's Bearhead LNG, Goldboro LNG, and then, of course, there's NRG Saguenay in Quebec. And there's a proposed AC LNG, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, early stage, no formal discussions. But LNG Canada is a flagship. Woodfibre LNG, both who are at this global show, including the CEO of Woodfibre. And Woodfibre is the first private Indigenous-backed and carbon-neutral facility. So, I mean, it's hitting all these key things that one wants to hear. And here, let me just run a couple numbers here, too, as to what projected jobs and whatnot. So, LNG Canada Phase 1, about 7,500 jobs. Woodfibre, about 650 jobs. Cedar LNG, 500 to 800. KSI, 5,000 during construction. Then on and on and on. But total long-term jobs for 2024 to 2045. So over the next 20 years, about 100,000 cumulative jobs. Federal and provincial taxes, over 100 billion in projected revenues over 30 years for LNG Canada and expansion and others. Royalties for BC and Alberta, about 24 to 30 billion. Carbon revenue offsets for electrification and whatnot. There's money there. So the direct GDP growth for LNG Canada Phase 1 is 500 billion over 40 years. So you can see, I mean, the numbers are astonishing. It's huge. And lots of, teams working together, lots of stakeholders at stake, and it's displacing coal. That's the biggest thing. And that's why, I mean, I say to people, if you could just focus on getting LNG and funding that, and it's expensive, but to get people off of coal, that's what we should be doing. Yes, there's a good place for solar, and yes, there's a good place for all of them, but this is also a great solution, and we should have all of these solutions at our hands to help get the whole, feed all economies, because once again, energy is wealth. If you can get a country out of poverty, a lot of that is to do with energy and getting cheap energy. That helps a ton. That helps to grow an economy. And you can see like a developing economy, which is expected to do exceptionally well, is the likes of India. If you can help to get a lot of the extreme poverty, lift it a little bit out of poverty, to help it along the way. That's a large number. It's a large number of people. It's a billion people, whatever, 1.2 billion. And I hate to look at just as economic terms, but I mean, we are focused mainly on finance and numbers and whatnot. Of course, helping people get out of poverty is a moral good and ethical good. But you can imagine, getting cheap, clean energy into there, not only does that clean up, not burning coal, that's great. Not burning biofuel like wood, that's great. That means cleaner air right off the bat. Better energy systems means you get not only better lighting and whatnot, but maybe air conditioning, things like that, where that does make a difference. You've got, your more fiber optic that can come in. You've got use of computers. I mean, it's all tons of things that can help these communities grow. And that is a big number to add to GDP when you have that kind of size of a population that you can help lift up. And of course, if the tons of emissions is your deal, the largest consumer of coal, and I think it's about 4.3 billion tons of coal a year, is China. They emit 10.5 billion tons a year. 50% of their emissions are coal power alone. Now, imagine if we could get enough LNG going to sell to China to bring that down. That would be a shocking amount. And once again, us, emitting, I think it's 1.8% of the world's percent, is nothing. It's irrelevant in comparison to some of these giant numbers as well. And that's what, if you are concerned about the climate and you're concerned about the numbers with emissions, you should be looking at the larger polluters. It isn't Canada. We're not on scale. In fact, we're the place creating the solutions, and it is in all of it. Even in oil, they're finding cleaner ways to extract oil. They're working with carbon as well, and they can take these techniques and take them elsewhere to wherever there is oil. But we can also put them on to trading partners to get them LNG that they need, and in some cases crude as well. And I can tell you, there is an appetite. There's a huge appetite for all of that in China, particularly. And it's more than just, well, if it's not us, it's someone else. I never think that's a great argument, but it should be us. There's no reason why it shouldn't be us. We are the world leader, and we should be proud of it, and we should be leveraging that as much as we can. And we've talked about before, whether it's Shell or BP, they are some of the biggest funders and investors into clean tech. They are. And I'm not here to do a big PR piece for them. We don't work with any oil and gas companies. So that's not what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of showing people that there's a big misinformation and a big misunderstanding. And I had it as well. Like when I went to university, it's gotten more aggressively left than when I was there. But, you were taught that all these things were bad. Oh, energy is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad. You can't be mining. You can't be doing this. And once you get out of university, you realize how the world works, and you look at things and go, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. We need these things. Like everything is made out of oil. Never mind just the energy aspect, but plastics and, like the chemicals industry. It's in everything. We need it. And that's where we need to get more into this kind of move away from the radical ideas and move into more of the reality. And Canada can play a big role in that. So what we need tons of investment. And that means for the biggest part is to convince the rest of the world that we're investable. And it's like everything else. You can talk all you like and say, oh, Canada's this, Canada's that. If no one's investing, if none of the major countries are investing anything into Canada, then there's something wrong. The market is telling you there's something wrong. If we became investable, if people felt like Canada is open for business and we can do business with you because there isn't the ability for one group to shut down a project, or that you're going to be stuck in red tape for 10 years. If countries felt like, no, that we can invest in LNG and we can do a contract right now, and in 4 years, we're going to get the product we need for our country, they're going to invest. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. So hopefully we're at that tipping point where we'll see that. And I'll sign off by saying this because we have to talk a little bit about politics, especially nowadays when you're especially leftist kind of countries and whatnot. Whenever the policy determines what you're allowed to do, that means you have to talk about politics. If they're saying we won't allow you to do this, we're doing a planned economy, and that's not part of it. We're going to take all of our tax dollars and put it into this. whether it makes sense or not. That's the problem you run into with some of these solutions. Whenever you say, we're not going to let the market tell us what they want to do, we're going to try to force a solution down here, is the Premier, Danielle Smith, made an excellent point of saying the best federal government that's happened for Alberta was a Liberal government. I mean, you'd think, well, why would she be, promoting that? But she made the case. She said, under Chrétien, were Liberal, but they fully understood that if you wanted to fund programs, it meant collecting taxes, it meant creating jobs, and it meant, sending clean energy and gas and crude. If you were working on the technology to make it cleaner, and you could see both in Canada, US, production up, emissions down. This is what you want to see. We're not going to get to these ridiculous numbers by 2030 and whatnot. I mean, anybody who believed that was kind of just reading the Coles notes on things, or was very idealistic or hopeful or whatnot. But we are seeing the trend is there just on the fossil fuels. Once we really engage the mining side and really start pulling that out of the ground, we're going to have all the other tools at our disposal as well. And I am optimistic. And once again, I'd rather be optimistic than terminally disappointed and worried. But we're going to find out soon enough. We're not that far off. And the more they keep talking, that's good. When you have premiers meeting regularly to discuss pipelines and projects and uranium and nuclear and all these things, that's good. When you have Canada talking to the US, even though a lot of the public think you're not going to get anywhere, we don't know what to expect, it's chaotic. If you're not talking, that's a problem. That's always a problem. When you're talking, the lines of communications are open. There's at least a chance of resolving something. Once you stop talking and you start fighting and tariffs start flying, no matter what, Canada loses. We will. And I know people say, well, the US will lose as well. The US won't lose because they own the money printing machine and they have the world's largest army that's the strongest by a factor of 20. So no, they don't lose. We have to put a reality hat on when we look at some of these things as well. That's just reality as it stands. So we need to be always talking. And as frustrating as it might be for some people when they read the news and they see things, it is frustrating. And that's okay. But let's focus on what we could do in Canada and what we have the chance to do. Some of these numbers are outstanding, and some of this revenue generated for government is huge. They can fund all sorts of projects with the revenue that would come in. And that's exciting. And then maybe we could support not only our own people, but the waves of immigration coming in that we have as well. And also then provide schooling, which they didn't provide any infrastructure for that. Hospitals, housing, all these things that while they encouraged immigration, they weren't doing. We need to do that. I mean, we and hopefully we've got a team in place that can do that is economically trained and that will do that. So anyways, enough of that. I better get back to the show. It's fascinating. Lots happening. And it's great to see a leader here in Alberta that, once again, is doing their job. Her job is to focus on Alberta and provide for the province. That's her sole job. Her job isn't to fight for Nigeria. Like this kind of like, oh, we're all universal, we're all one. We're not. That's your job, is to do that. Then the Prime Minister's job is to do the best job to help the Canadian economy. This idea that, no, we have to help. No, we don't. We have to fix our own problems. Clean your own house first before you worry about, cleaning someone else's house. We have to have our own house in order before we can go even help someone else. And if it's your big passionate desire to go help other people, go and do that. Don't force it upon others. Go help them. Go move to wherever it is you want to go help. Go do it. I encourage you. That's great. It's a noble cause. In any event, enough of me blabbering on, because I'll keep on doing it. I want to get to the show and talk to CANDO, talk to some of these direct lithium extraction companies, and chat with some more, of the trade people that are there and discussing what they're looking forward to in the future. And have a great weekend, everyone. We may try and check in on Friday, but once again, it's been very hectic here. If I can, I will. If not, we'll see you next week. All the best.